Good morning, everyone. People of the internet. She's Jessie. I'm Emerson. Welcome to a Week 13 Sunday morning edition of The Sweat. A lot to get to, not a lot of time, so I'm going to shut the hell up.
But we're going to let these people talk all they want all morning. Good morning to this DK Live trio of Reed Fowler, Jeff Ulrich, and Julian Edlow. We're going to get this show started with some NFL spin move. That's when we put a fantasy spin on this morning's top headlines.
All right, gentlemen, as many of you have heard, Kareem Hunt has been released by the Chiefs after videos surfaced of a violent incident involving a woman in a Cleveland hotel back in February. We'd like to focus on the on-field impact of this, though. Spencer Ware will take on the role of lead back, so how does this change the Chiefs' offense? Go ahead, Reed.
I think from an efficiency standpoint, it doesn't change it that much. Like Spencer Ware was already getting efficiency, or he's getting production with even Hunt in the game, right? What you probably will see, and what I think a lot of people won't realize, is that there is going to be a splitter committee with Sherman. I think you have Williams back there. I don't think it's just strictly Kareem or strictly Spencer Ware's backfield. What you do like from the pass catcher standpoint, right, is Travis Kelce and these guys will get obviously more targets, but in terms of red zone efficiency, I think that does go to Spencer Ware. I think you see 50% more red zone opportunities for Spencer Ware as opposed to the other guys that even when Hunt is out, Travis Kelce and those guys don't get a huge bump in red zone targets or scoring opportunities. So from an efficiency standpoint, I think it stays the same. But I think from a red zone perspective, Ware does get those touches.
Julian, what changes with this Chiefs offense now that Spencer Ware is the ball carrier?
Yeah, not that much really changes, honestly. It's a running back is a plug-and-play position in the NFL, so the Chiefs are going to take Spencer Ware, plug him mostly into what Hunt's role was, and I do agree with Reed. It's not going to be, Spencer Ware getting 100% of the touches, but we've seen Ware be successful in the past for, close to a complete season. So just finishing up the rest of this season as the Chiefs' lead running back, you got to think he's going to have some success in this role. So obviously at $4,000 on this slate against a terrible Oakland Raiders run defense, Ware's going to be kind of a lock on this slate. But moving forward, he should be a guy that's, going to be in a really good position in one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL.
Jeff, you like the spot Spencer Ware is in today?
Yeah. I mean, Spencer Ware is, I think people forget, Spencer Ware was the lead running back last year before he got hurt in preseason. That's the only reason Kareem Hunt started last year. It wasn't because of talent. Spencer Ware was the starter. This is a starting running back, and the Chiefs had the luxury of basically just letting him get back into tune early in the season coming off the knee injury. And he's looked great in spots this year. People haven't really taken notice because they haven't have to. Now, maybe they lose a little bit of explosiveness, like on the screen passes. Hunt did have that burst. But look, Spencer Ware is a fantastic pass catcher, 33 catches, 14 games in the last year he played. Almost had a 1,000-yard rushing season. They're not going to lose anything here. Like, they just don't. If Spencer Ware stays healthy, he's going to see a Kareem Hunt-type workload. I'm not really worried about the other guys coming in to take that much of a workload, quite frankly. Damian Williams, a little bit interesting. I assume they'll get him worked in as an insurance policy, but this is Spencer Ware's time, and he's a great play this week.
Jeff, Ben Roethlisberger criticized Antonio Brown's route running earlier this week on his weekly radio show, but Brown says he understands and he isn't taking it personally. So do you expect to see a boom or bust night for AB?
Is it route running or route running? I don't know. I have this conversation.
Listen, tomato, potato, it's not a big deal.
We'll talk about it on Monday. That'll be Monday's show. But look, I'm not worried about Antonio Brown in this spot. I mean, I think this is just more of a motivation thing from Ben Roethlisberger. These guys have played together for too long to have some sort of animosity, creep in here. I mean, I do expect a pretty big bounce back from Brown here. There's a little bit of weather concerns, but it looks like the rain's going to stop in LA before the game starts, in Pittsburgh before the game starts. I think this is actually a pretty good spot for Antonio Brown. The Chargers secondary really hasn't been that good. They've been a little bit up and down. There's Joey Bosa's back, but I think Brown bounces back this week. I really do.
Well, Reed, that Chargers secondary is among the NFL's sixth best in both holding opposing wide receivers just 120 catches and 1,554 receiving yards. So how do you feel Antonio Brown going up against this Chargers D?
Yeah, this is a tough question because when is ever Antonio Brown a bust, right? Like you would lean on and you're on the side of boom because of his talent. I will say from a statistical standpoint, his numbers are down. And you look at the best receiver on that team again from a stats and number standpoint is Juju Smith-Schuster. He's getting more red zone targets in terms of, and it's just his passer rating is a lot higher. Casey Hayward does pose some sort of threat if he's going to follow Antonio Brown, but AB gets 11 targets on average per game. You would think, especially with Roethlisberger trying to potentially rile up his team, sort of a poor man's Aaron Rodgers saying that AB's route running isn't as crisp. No, that's not going to happen. So if I had to err on something, it's going to be Boom just because AB has that ability. But Juju Smith-Schuster is becoming the guy now that Roethlisberger is looking at, especially in the red zone. So if I had to choose between those two, it's Juju for me.
Julian, he had 21 and a half fantasy points in week 10. He had 25 plus in week 11. Then in week 12, he had just 15, a little over 15. So, I mean, is your definition of boomer bust just basically getting back in the 20s?
I mean, pretty much. If you look at Antonio Brown's game log, he's been very consistent. So the Juju, production is the only thing that's taking away from Antonio Brown. I don't necessarily think Antonio Brown has been playing poorly. So because of what Reed just said, I think a lot of people are going to be on Juju Smith-Schuster for $400 cheaper than Antonio Brown. He had that big 40 DK point outing just last week. So people are going to look there, which is exactly why I want to go with Antonio Brown if I'm picking between the two. Brown's the better player. He's experienced more success. He's going to have one of these bounce back games, a primetime game at home with the opportunity to do that. I think this is a place where, you can kind of zig when everyone else zags and tries to go with the hot play in Juju, and you find yourself Antonio Brown for not much more in salary.
Guys, Stephon Diggs is expected to play against Patriots today, however, continues to deal with that knee injury, which is why he enters with a questionable tag. I wanted everyone to make sure they knew where the knee was. Jules, would you stay away from him because of how he struggled to play through injuries in the past?
Yeah, well, now I obviously have more information here, knowing where the knee is and how this is going to affect.
You're welcome. Dr. Lotzia, everyone.
That.
Dr. Lotzia.
So given this new information, look, it's kind of a similar situation to Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster here. Do you want to play Diggs or do you want to play Thielen? Thielen's definitely the more consistent option, the more Antonio Brown-like option, I would say. Obviously, he's having the bigger year, but Diggs has produced some huge games, especially recently. I think he has a couple of games over 30 DK points in his last two games. Yeah, 34.6 and 30.9. So if you're playing cash, I think you got to go with Adam Thielen here. But I wouldn't be concerned in tournaments with rostering Diggs at all. I think he's shown us he's healthy. He's scored 23 or more DraftKings points in 3 straight. So he's kind of a guy that can be a little contrarian compared to the chalk play.
All right, Reed, how cautious should people be when considering rostering Diggs?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think if he wasn't, like Xavier Rhodes, for instance, right, is a game time decision. He's going to work through some things in pregame. That's what would scare me most with Diggs. We've seen him with soft tissue issues. But he said limited practices all week. So it doesn't scare me too much, especially going up against the Patriots team, traveling on the road. These doctors wouldn't let this guy go, especially because these guys have Super Bowl aspirations, playoff aspirations. What you like about the Diggs play, to Julian's point too, as well, those big games, he's averaging 2 red zone targets per game over the last 4 games. Outside of the 11 plus targets that this guy sees, double-digit targets, now he's getting targets in the scoring zone. We don't see the Dalvin Cooks and the Latavius Murrays. Kyle Rudolph was a guy who was a red zone target. It's Diggs and Thielen. Those are the 2 guys that are doing damage in that scoring position. If you look at the Patriots, again, he might get Stephon Gilmore. Gilmore has been one of the top cornerbacks in the league so far, but we've seen guys like Devontae Adams do well against Stephon Gilmore. I think this is what you have to do if you're the Vikings. You're going to have to score. You have to keep up with these guys. So like Julian was mentioning, if you like Thielen, and a lot of people do, the zag is Stephon Diggs. So I like him a lot.
What are your thoughts on playing Diggs today, Jeff? Or would you rather pay $400 more and throw Thielen in your lineup?
Well, first of all, you must have dominated your family Operation home games there, Emerson. With
yes, I have never lost a game of Operation or Monopoly.
That's a
clearly.
lot.
So, no, I don't see the appeal in rostering Diggs today at all. I mean, Reed brought up the matchup with Stephon Gilmore. He is projected to see a lot of them on the outside, unless they move him over to Shadow Thielen, which is a possibility. But And then you add the injury in, and then you add the fact he's 7,600. This is basically his season high on DraftKings in terms of salary. I don't like the matchup more than the injury thing. The injury thing just throws another, wrench into the script, wrench into the machine. I don't know what the saying is, but it's not good, right? So it's just another negative on the ledger. I would much rather go up to take a chance with a healthy Odell Beckham or Julio Jones in a little bit worse matchups. But the matchup's not really good for Diggs. The price isn't good. The injury scares me a little bit that he's just going to be a little bit limited, and I just don't see the reason to pay up for him at all in the spot personally.
Jeff, the saying is, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
Okay.
That's the saying you're looking for.
All right, guys. Lamar Jackson is getting his third straight start, his first on the road. Are you interested in playing him this week since he's only 5,900 here, Reed?
Yeah, I like Lamar Jackson. We talked about it through the week in terms of his price tag, and I brought up something in terms of that last week's production. He finished as QB 16 with 2 interceptions, right? Of the top 10 finishing quarterbacks, the average rushing attempt was 6. We saw a guy in Josh Allen go for 13.99 and touchdown along with a 40-yard run. I mean, now these quarterbacks with these rushing floors are really nice. Now he's going to be chalk, right? We've seen in terms of the Falcons give up a ton of yards to running backs on the ground, but they're not that good against rushing quarterbacks as well. They're top 10. We've seen guys like Cam Newton perform against them on the ground. The Falcons do get Deion Jones back. This is his first game back after a while, so we'll see how that pans out. But at that price tag, look, there's guys like Kirk Cousins, Case Keenum that if we're playing in GPPs and tournaments that I'd rather go to. But Lamar Jackson in cash, I think you can put him there for a safe floor. So I like this play a lot.
Yeah, Jeff, how worried are you with Jones being back for that Falcons defense?
Yeah, it definitely helps them. I mean, he's a good run stopper. I mean, he's going to add just another good, talented body to their defense that really has sucked so far this year. So it's definitely a bit of a downgrade, I guess. I just look at it from this perspective. There's so much value on this slate with Spencer Ware, a couple other cheap running backs. I just don't think you need to pay down to Lamar Jackson when you have Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, Cam Newton, all in good spots and all with really big upside and a few less question marks than Lamar Jackson. So I don't mind him as a play. I think his upside is still there, but I would much rather just pay up a quarterback and look for value elsewhere on the slate personally.
You also looking for value elsewhere, Julian?
Yeah, I agree with what Jeff kind of said at the end there. At the beginning of the week, Lamar Jackson was a little bit more on my radar at 5,900. You've got Tom Brady at home down at 5,800. I thought that was a really interesting price point with those two guys specifically. And then we've got all this value, even at receiver with those Bucs receivers, Humphreys and Chris Godwin. We've got the cheap running backs in Spencer Ware and Carlos Hyde. There's so much value that you almost don't have to save money at quarterback when there's such a safe option like Cam Newton and Jameis Winston going head-to-head in that Carolina-Tampa Bay game. So I guess I'm not going to be playing that much of Jackson just because there's so much open salary across the board here. But you do want to get a little bit of exposure to him if you're making multiple lineups. You can maybe fit something like a Christian McCaffrey and Todd Gurley running back tandem there. So there is some upside. The Atlanta defense is not good. The Ravens have moved to underdogs on the road here, so Jackson could be playing from behind here, rip off some long runs. So I do like the play. I just think if you're making one cash lineup or something, paying up at quarterback makes a little more sense.
You can play him over Jameis Winston, though. Don't play Jameis Winston today.
Well, and if we want to afford Jeff's boy, Tyreek Hill at 9,100, we're going to have to save salary. And I get it. We also have to think about what game mode. If you're playing cash, absolutely, I agree with these guys. But GPPs, look, Andrew Luck is right there, $100 cheaper. Everyone's going to be on Andrew Luck. So, again, it's for cash, yeah, there is some concern. But, I mean, Tyreek Hill, 9,100, that's the highest this guy's been. If Jeff wants to play that boy, he's got to go save somewhere else.
I do want to play that boy.
Yeah, he's good.
What are we doing here? Do you want to do some updates? Do you have updates? Let's
Sure.
go. Here we go.
Yeah.
Updates. Joe Flacco's out. You guys know that's why we just talked about his
true.
backup. Gus Edwards in, Marlon Mack in, Randall Cobb in, Kiki Kuti out, Devin Funchess in, J.J. Watt in, Keeb Talib in. Jalen Ramsey's going to gut it out after a strong pregame warm-up. Danny Amendola is out and Devontae Parker is in.
Wow.
I hit on all of them right now. So how about some questions?
Oh, questions. You want to go to questions here?
Let's go. You ready?
All right, let's go. Reed, let's see. Pick one wide receiver. Julio, Hopkins, or Brown?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, Julio, in terms of that matchup, you don't like it, right? Because Baltimore, again, if we're playing GPPs, a lot of people are off the Atlanta receivers. That's going to be a cheap stack too, right, Ryan? It's going to be cheap in terms of ownership. So I would say Julio there. I would say Julio there just because the man is matchup proof, in my opinion.
Jeff, this one's for you. Am I better off using Jameis in the Bears defense or Cam in the Broncos defense?
Ew, what did I just say? Don't play Jameis.
I just wanted to hear it again, buddy.
Cam
All right,
option.
so Cam in the Broncos defense. There's your answer there, Dylan. Dylan Schmittler. Do we have any more?
No, that's it.
Oh, we have to go?
Yeah.
Okay. That's how you answer questions, guys. Great job. That's how you play NFL spin move as well. Up next, we're chasing and fading some of today's point spreads.
Pat Mayo here with an exciting new way to heat up your Sundays this football season. DraftKings has teamed up with Buffalo Wild Wings to bring you a fantasy experience like no other. Blazing Fantasy Football, a new free game only available inside Buffalo Wild Wings restaurants. Want to win free wings for a year, game tickets, Buffalo Wild Wings gift cards, or Blazing Rewards points? Here's how. Head to Buffalo Wild Wings, download the Blazing Rewards app, and join. Already a member? Not a problem. Just log in and fire up the app. Click or tap the Blazing Fantasy Football icon, join a contest, draft your lineup, and get ready to compete against rivals in all Buffalo Wild Wings restaurants. Blaze your way up the leaderboard by drafting who you think will be the top 8 players, including kickers. Best part? You've got a chance to really rack up the score with your blazing pick. It's worth double points, so choose wisely. Don't just wing it. Draft your team in one of Sunday's 4 contests before each half of the 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. Eastern games. Then, grab some wings, sit back, and watch your team light up the leaderboard. Come back every Sunday for new contests each week. DraftKings and Buffalo Wild Wings, the right stack for Sundays.
Welcome back to the show that helps you make money, and when you do not, as we always tell you, blame these guys. Reed Terrence Fowler, Gregory Ehrenberg, Stephen William Buchanan. Good morning to all of you.
It's time to chase or fade. So in layman's terms, agree or disagree, focusing on point spreads for today's main slate. So the Packers are big favorites at home this week when the Cardinals come to town. Chase or fade, Green Bay covers the 13-point spread today. Stephen, take it away.
I'm going to chase this one, but I feel like the only way if they're going to do this is if they just let Aaron Jones go crazy in this game, because that's how they're going to beat the Cardinals in this spot. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has been anything but Aaron Rodgers lately. I mean, he's thrown for under 200 yards in 2 of his last 4 games, and the Cardinals are extremely tough against opposing quarterbacks. When you look at the DK fantasy points allowed, they're in the same company as the Bills and the Chargers. So it's not like this is a soft defense in that perspective. So they got to let Jones go crazy in this game here. I feel like that's the only way they're going to cover here. So I'll chase it, but on contingency that they go with Jones.
Okay, Reed, chase or fade it.
Yeah, I like that you guys went to Steve first because there are some weather concerns in Green Bay. I don't know if he was going to mention that.
Hot Take City, the sweatometer's going off.
Yeah, there we go. No, I want to fade this. And I think because what Steve said, Aaron Rodgers hasn't been Aaron Rodgers of late. And if they do go to Aaron Jones, I think this is going to be a slow-paced game. And look, that implied game total, the implied team total for Green Bay is around 27-28. I really don't know how they get to that point, especially if they feature Aaron Jones. Like their defense, Green Bay's defense doesn't really scare me. They're 20th in overall DVA. Arizona is top 10 in DVOA. They're a good pass rushing team. Green Bay is as well. So I think this does become a run-heavy game, and I can't imagine Green Bay scoring 28 in this. So I'm going to say fade.
Greg, Reed's fading it. Are you going to chase it? What's up?
Yeah, it's a fade for me also. I kind of feel like Steve chased it, but then argued against it. So I'm not even sure exactly where it was that he stood on this. But still, I just think the Packers are not good enough to be favored by 13 points over anybody. They've been just kind of a mediocre team this year. It looks like they're probably going to miss the playoffs. They've won 2 games this entire season by more than 3 points. I do agree with the guys. I think Aaron Jones is one of the better running back plays on the slate today. But for 13 points, I think the Cardinals are a better bet for the spread than the Packers.
Next Sunday, can we get a Rain-O-meter? That's what we need for when we have Steve on.
We'll actually have Steve stand in front of a green screen, and he's going to do the whole... We're going to have a segment. Yeah.
All right, looks like
Steve
he's...
is just stone-faced. He is not enjoying this at all.
No, it looks like he's 100%
We're
into
just
that
joking,
idea.
Steve.
All right,
I
stop.
thought you people liked me.
Guys, stop
We
me
do
if
like
you
you.
have... Stop me
No,
if
not
you've
really.
heard this before, please.
I love you, Steve.
All right, guys, I need you all to focus. We have people watching. The Giants are home dogs today against the Bears. Reed Muffin, chase or fade New York covers that 4-point spread.
God, I'm going to fade this because I don't like the Giants. I usually don't give any credence to backup quarterbacks on the road, especially when Chicago only scores 9 in the first half with Chase Daniel. But you look at this Giants team, look, they're 7th worst sack rate from offensive line DVOA. They're giving up a ton of points. I don't trust what the Giants are doing. I don't trust when you don't attack a Philadelphia secondary when everyone is injured and they're signing UDFAs, the week before to cover one of the best receivers. And so you love that defense. Look, Chicago's defense, number 1 in terms of turnover percentage and dead last for teams in terms of scoring percentage offenses when they're on the drive. So I'm going to fade that they cover just because I don't like the Giants at all.
Greg, this is your neck of the woods. What do you think? New York covers?
Yeah, this is going to have to be a fade for me also. I don't like to say bad things about people, but Pat Shurmur, he's a dunderhead. I don't know what other words to call him.
That's okay,
Last week, Saquon Barkley is rolling in the first half against the Eagles, and in the second half, he gets 4 carries. He's barely involved in the offense, which leads me to believe one of two things. Either Pat Shurmur has no clue what he's doing, or the goal of the Giants is just to lose games down the stretch, and they're trying to tank, and they're not trying to win. Neither one of these things is really great to me in terms of the Giants' outlook for this week. So to me, I like the Bears and the 4 points.
All right, Al Roker, what do you think?
Oh, Steve, that's
Steve.
you.
Look, hey, who's starting at quarterback today? I'm just going through my DK Live app. I don't see Mr. Trubisky starting because he's not.
He's not.
The Giants are going to cover here. This defense is totally underrated at this point to opposing quarterbacks. The Giants are sandwiched between the Vikings and the Seahawks for DK fantasy points allowed. Oh, Chase Daniel starting. Oh, yeah, he's just got to come in here, rip this defense apart. Come on. You guys kidding me? I know it's early on Sunday morning, but wake up. Giants are going to cover in this one.
Wake up, everybody.
Greg, Reed,
wake
come
up.
on, man.
Yeah. Guys, the Jags are also underdogs at home this week against the Colts. Chase or fade, Jacksonville covers, Greg.
I wish that Emerson was the bookmaker just so we'd get the Jaguars. Jaguars minus 17.5 points every single week.
Yeah.
And just going to be free money for everybody.
Yeah.
But look, this is a really kind of weird spot for the Jaguars in terms of I don't really know what to make of them because they switched up the quarterback. They're going with Cody Kessler now. To me, I think that what Jacksonville is going to do is they're going to try to slow the game down. I think they're going to run a lot with Carlos Hyde, who I think makes for a pretty good DK value at 3,300. I think that TJ Yeldon is going to be involved. And just because of the slow pace of the game in Jacksonville being at home, I think that they're able to cover. But I think that the Colts win outright. Jaguars cover the spread.
Hey, Steve, what do you think?
No, this is not happening at all. I mean, the Jags defense that was so rock solid has allowed at least 20 points in 7 straight games. Oh, by the way, that also includes the Buffalo Bills. Shout out Emerson. I mean, Luck and the Colts are literally clicking on all cylinders right now. I don't see how this game gets covered by the Jaguars. I don't care if Jalen Ramsey's out there. He looked awful last week, and now he's going to get held in. No, this is not a good spot for the Jags. Colts, they're going to take this one easily.
Reed. Emerson's
I think they
listening.
chase. I think they chase it. I think they do cover here. And the reason why, look, Jacksonville has only lost by single digits in the last 4 games. 3.5 in the last 3 weeks. They're losing these close games, and I get it. They've been on a losing streak for a long time, and Emerson has been pumping the brakes on this team. He's hot and cold. He's Jekyll and Hyde with his allegiance to the Jaguars, and you hear it every day in the office, but rightfully so. These guys are losing close games, and now when you're quote-unquote playing for pride, right, this defense they have to show up, and what a prime spot to be home dogs against the Colts, who are now streaming. I think they do chase. I think they do cover this, so I'm going to chase this.
Well, what do you know, guys? We're out of town for this block, so really appreciate it. Great work. Who you guys are building your lineups around is coming up. That's also known as Anchor Pick, so stick with us.
Tara Lanezak in with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger has not been shy this season when it comes to critiquing his teammates. Big Ben was critical of Antonio Brown on his weekly radio appearance, saying that Brown needed to run his route flat on the goal line interception he threw in the final minutes of Sunday's 24-17 loss to Denver. The QB added that more throws should have gone to Juju Smith-Schuster in that situation. Brown leads the team with 11 touchdowns this season and is second in receptions and yards behind Juju, who has exceeded 1,000 yards in his second season with the Steelers. But Brown has no problem with his quarterback's constructive criticism, saying, "Ben's my guy. I love him. Anything he says, there's a method to his madness." With Brown taking the comments in such a positive way, will we see a rewarding outcome? Or will Roethlisberger have better juju with Smith-Schuster in tonight's primetime tilt with the Chargers?
Alrighty, welcome back to The Sweat, where we make all of your fantasy football dreams come true.
And helping us do that today is this man, Pat Mayo, live in the PME studios. Take it away, Pat.
Pat Mayo here with Gary and Thorn. Going to update you on a few of the line movements and spreads that are going on right now. Also, my season-long weekly rankings for each position have just been updated. If you go to dkplaybook.com, you can find that right now. Something wrong with
You
my
sound
voice.
like Kermit.
I do.
There you go.
The voice has been out of commission for 2 weeks. A lot of cough, a lot of it's not good. Biggest spread movement of the week. What do you think it is? There's two.
I know the Dolphins moved almost 2 points.
That's not one of them.
Okay.
The Ravens went from being 1-point favorites to 2-point underdogs.
There you
They're
go.
now +2 in Atlanta. Atlanta no longer a home dog. The other one, Tennessee is now -10. They opened at -7 against the Jets. They're now -10.
Well, Marcus Mariota doesn't incomplete passes anymore.
I did hear that.
Yeah. It's a big number. It's a big number for Tennessee for a couple of reasons. I mean, one, exceedingly slow-paced team. A team that has shown time and time again.
They want to run the
They
football.
want to run the football.
84% of money on the Titans still at -10. It seems like a good this shapes up to be an avoid spot.
Oh, sure. This is either you like the Jets or you avoid this game.
Yeah.
And I would say, in a similar sense, I feel kind of the same way as a lot of the guys did about this Arizona Green Bay game. But if I can't get
I still like
fair,
Green Bay.
but just in my own personal perspective, if I can't find it within myself to trust Aaron Rodgers as a double-digit favorite, how am I trusting Marcus Mariota as a double-digit favorite?
Are the Jets better than Arizona? It's iffy.
I would say the Jets are better. I think they have a better offensive line. I think
They do not.
Arizona's defense is probably better.
Arizona has better players. That has to help.
Yeah. It's close. It's close.
Yeah, so I would take the extra 3 and just hope that. Oh my God! I heard there's snow.
Not really being affected by the snow.
I bet you these guys in Green Bay never seen snow before. Never happened.
I mean, again, I've heard reports all morning that they're freaking out.
Oh no.
Just no possible way to fight this thing.
Also a good thing in any sort of cold weather or snow game that gets underreported, especially when you have a West Coast team that generally plays inside of a dome. Half the time they forget to bring their snow cleats with them. That actually happens.
That is true.
And one team's and they have to adjust in half and basically just put the metal spikes in.
Yeah.
I don't think they're metal spikes, but they're specialty snow spikes.
I think they're longer, I believe. Anyway.
It happened to the Colts last year against Buffalo in that snow game.
Yeah, and again, everyone gets that image in their head of that.
It's not going to be
It's not that game.
It's not 3 feet of snow.
It's not canceling school's
Flurries.
snow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Games you like this week?
Like I said, I do like the Cardinals.
I like the Bears. They were just talking about the Bears being super wishy-washy, but I'd take the Bears -4.
They're just a better team.
But what's New York going to do? The only thing they can do is run and not stop people from coming at the quarterback. So the Bears have the best pass rush and the best run defense in the league. So unless Beckham catches 4 90-yard touchdowns, I think the Bears are going to be okay.
Yeah, I think that's pretty safe to say. Their defense is just, we play this game all the time, but their defense is arguably the best unit in the NFL on that side of the football. I still don't trust the Giants to consistently score points unless they're facing the Bucks.
Niners, they had a good run.
You can blame their second half struggles last week on the fact they didn't give the ball to Saquon Barkley, but it doesn't change the fact they didn't give the ball to Saquon Barkley. That's part and parcel. Your offensive play calling is part of your offense. Yeah, I like the Bears in that game.
I also like the Chiefs are now down to -13 in some spots. It's -14, -13, just no matter where you look. So -14 right now on DK Sportsbook. I like the Chiefs to cover that number. There's so much. Yeah, the Raiders will garbage time people to death kind of thing. Will they? Will the Raiders really garbage time you to death? If they try to garbage time you to death, Derek Carr will probably throw a pick 6.
Yeah, we have this image in our head of them garbage time. Well, they actually won the game against the Cardinals, but that's the Cardinals. That was the game for essentially the first pick of the draft.
Cardinals are better than the Jets.
Yeah, I know, but I'm not saying the Cardinals are good. I'm just saying I don't think the Packers deserve to be favored by 13 points. Yeah, I'm with you in that sense. If you can find that game for less than 2 touchdowns, I'm perfectly fine hopping on the Chiefs. We also talked about this on the show in terms of over-unders. I really think that Patriot-Viking game goes over.
You don't think defenses show up at all?
I think defenses show up to a point, but I just think this is 2 teams. at least in my head, who are not going to be actively trying to run the football in this contest. I think you're going to see a lot of Kirk Cousins and a lot of Tom Brady, and that probably gets you over that number.
Not a whole lot of games I love here. I kind of like the Lions at home +10. The Rams don't cover games anymore.
They haven't for a long time.
This is a slow-paced game, and the one thing Detroit can actually do is stop the run, and I guarantee you the Rams will be committed to the run here. So you have to think that, like, even if Gurley gets his, if he's constantly running, it's just slowing down the clock. If Detroit can score, I was going to say, if they score 17 points in this game, they're definitely going to cover. If they score 14 points, like, the cover's still live.
Sure. I mean, it's a 2-score cover. I would be more apt to stay away from this one. I just don't trust that Lion offense.
It's too bad.
They're again, when you basically tell the league that we can't trust our quarterback to stay in the pocket for more than 2 seconds without getting his head taken off. There's not a lot this Rams defense has been able to do well recently, but they have been able to start ramping up the pressure. And Aaron Donald's played a whole lot better. Yeah, I would be inclined to take the Rams there or just avoid.
All right, last one. What's a bigger fade the public spot here this week? Will you take the home dog Cincinnati Bengals, now 5-point underdogs against the Denver Broncos, the surging Denver Broncos,
right,
leaving Mile High, going on the road, or the Jacksonville Jaguars +4 at home against Indy? I like the Jags more than I like.
I was going to
the
say, I'd be
Bengals.
more inclined to take the Jaguars and the Bengals. Not that I'm actively looking to put my entire life's fortune on the Broncos, but I'm
to
far
let you
more
know about that, the odds and lines are subject to change. See the
This is
website
true.
for actual odds. If you or anyone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, go 1-800-GAMBLER.
We've seen the Colts not show up at points this week. We've also seen the Colts blow a massive lead to the Jaguars at home.
We saw this game 2 weeks ago. And
Exactly.
It was a 3-point game in Indy.
Yeah.
Like 4 points at home. I'll just take it.
You'd have to assume even with the Jaguars, even with their massive switches across the board, there's still going to be a run-first team that kind of grinds the clock.
Maybe this isn't the week to attack because there's so many home dogs, but like I'll take the Niners, I'll take the Lions, I'll take I don't want to take the Raiders. Like I just don't. If you're going up against the Chiefs, I feel like that's a different story.
Yes.
Some of these, and then I'll take the Jags at home as well. Anyway, Gary and Thorn will be back later on the Sweat.
Yes, I will. Talking fades.
Thorns in your side.
Exactly.
Any teas? Any good fades?
Well, we talked
Christian
about this before.
McCaffrey, is he a fade? Yes or no?
No.
No? Okay, that's good to know for my lineups. I'm Pat Mayo. You can watch me every day on the Pat Mayo Experience. Download the audio version. Watch it on the DK Live app or on YouTube. I will be back 10 a.m. Eastern Time Monday morning, live, recapping the week, talking waiver wires, and some early spreads. Back to you guys in Boston.
All right, thanks, Pat. Now it's time for everyone's second favorite segment of the show, Papa John's Make Your Pick.
Hey everyone, I'm Brendan Glasheen along with DK Live's Adam Levitan and Reed Fowler. They're here to help you make your pick for DraftKings Team Pick'em. It's presented by Papa John's. You get 25% off any regular menu price orders by using the promo code DK25. We're targeting 3 games in Week 13 with interesting storylines. The Panthers are sliding, guys. Carolina suddenly 6-5 after losing 3 straight. Levy, can they turn it around at Tampa Sunday?
Yeah, I like the Bucs here, and with Jameis back in the saddle, with Jameis having some job security, this passing offense is really, really hard to stop. I don't think James Bradbury or Dante Jackson are ready for what Jameis is going to give to them. And yeah, the Bucs defense is really bad here, but maybe they can rise up playing at home. And the Bucs know that if they win out, and it's a huge improbability, but if they do win out, they're still alive for the playoffs, so not quite dead yet.
Okay, Reed, how about you?
Yeah, I'm actually going to choose Carolina here. I know I've been off on them past couple of weeks, really not beating any team of notoriety, but I do think they win at Tampa Bay. If you look at Tampa Bay's defense, like Levy alluded to, what really scares me is that they've given up 14 touchdowns total to running backs, third most. And who's the guy that you're scared of most on that team? That's Christian McCaffrey. I know Jameis is back there, but I'm always worried about that second start for these quote-unquote starting quarterbacks in Tampa Bay. So I got Carolina here.
Next up, Rams off the bye and scoring 54 against the Chiefs a few Mondays ago. They'll head to Motown this week to face the Lions. Expect any drop-off offensively from L.A., Reed, after a week off?
Oh, yeah, a ton drop-off. No, absolutely not. Like, these guys are going to roll over in Detroit. Detroit's, obviously, if you look at Matt Stafford, right, he's having some trouble here. You do like Detroit's defensive line. They're obviously playing really well, but you have the Rams rolling. I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams do rest their guys later in this game. Potentially, look, we've seen what's happened with these teams in the hunt with their key players going down through injury or from injury. So I got the Rams here, but that's something I keep my eye on.
Levy?
Yeah, I think it's just really difficult in today's NFL to keep up with the pressure that an offense of the Chiefs or the Rams puts on you. Like, the Lions would have to score on almost every one of their possessions or 75% of their possessions in order to just keep this game within striking distance. So yeah, you could say that maybe the Lions could pick some holes in the Rams defense, et cetera, but the chances of them just sustaining scoring drives for that long versus the way the Rams are is just too much to ask.
Last game we are targeting. The Patriots host the Vikings Sunday afternoon. Each team is riding a lengthy one-game win streak. So Levitan, what you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the upset here. I continue to think that the Patriots, if they did not say Patriots on the front of their jerseys, that no one would think they're as good as they are. The talent level between the Vikings and the Patriots, I think, is relatively equal. So I think in a game that could go either way, I'll go with the side that nobody thinks can happen. The Vikings can get pressure with their front four, and I think that's a really good way to slow down Tom Brady. So I'll go with the Vikings here in an upset.
Okay, Reed, you playing it safe, or do you got the Vikings?
No, I do appreciate what, I mean, Levy's right. If they can get pressure right, we saw that with Tennessee a couple of weeks ago. If you can get pressure on Brady, that's really the way to beat these guys. At the same time, Minnesota, not a lot of wins in the road, right? It's just kind of one of those bubble teams that we don't necessarily know yet. Huge win against Green Bay, so we see what Kirk Cousins can do. But I still think New England, with what they're able to do at home, have this win. If they get pressure, if Minnesota's front seven get pressure, we see those exotic blitz packages that Zimmer has where he brings down Harrison Smith. If they can get to Tom Brady, this will be a close one, but I got the Patriots here.
All right, thanks, guys. That'll do it for this week's edition of Make Your Pick. For DraftKings Team Pick'em, it's presented by Papa John's. For Adam and Reed, I'm Brendan. We'll talk to you next week.
Live from Boston, it's Sunday morning. Welcome back to The Sweat. We don't actually want you to be sweating your lineups, so let's bring in our experts to talk anchors and DSTs.
Cool beans.
Jeff Ulrich and Julian Edlow, both of DK Live infamy. Thanks for being here.
Let's start with your anchor picks, please. This is the player you're going to be building your lineup around. Jeff, who are you going with?
Going with Todd Gurley. I mean, I'm not sure why more people aren't on this. I feel like he should be easily like a top 3 owned in this spot. Detroit's just not really that good at run defense. They're not really that good a team, quite frankly. The Rams are 10-point favorites here, and you're getting Todd Gurley at pretty much a depressed price. I mean, we saw him in the like high 9K range consistently in the 3 or 4 weeks leading up to this. Yes, everyone remembers the Monday night game where everyone went off except Todd Gurley because he dinged up his ankle a little bit. Now he's had like 2 weeks of rest. They've come out and said it's not a big deal. He's 100% go for this game. This is a massive spot at a pretty kind of a discount price for a guy who's produced all season long. So I don't know why you wouldn't get exposure to him on this slate. There's so much other cheap value that you can fit him in pretty much in any lineup with almost anyone. I think people are really overlooking this spot for Todd Gurley. I feel like he should be perhaps the most owned player on this slate, or at least, like I said, top 3. Detroit is just not that good at run defense. Yes, they've improved a little bit. Not a good team, though. Really good spot for Todd Gurley. He's my anchor play.
Jules, anchor down for me, bud.
Yeah, I think Gurley's an awesome play in this spot, but Christian McCaffrey was the guy that popped out to me as my top overall play. And no, it's not because he had 52.7 DraftKings points last week, although that's great. He rushed 17 times for 125 yards and a touchdown, and then also caught all 11 of his targets for 112 yards and a touchdown. In this matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it's just worked out so well for running backs, especially dual threat running backs. We had McCaffrey in this matchup pretty recently, back in week 9. He rushed 17 times for 79 yards. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. He also caught 5 of 6 targets for 78 yards. We saw what Matt Breida of the San Francisco 49ers did in this exact spot last week against Tampa. Went off for a huge game, both rushing and receiving. So I just think the spot sets up really well for McCaffrey to get you either a little savings off Gurley if you want to pick between the two, or we keep talking about all this value. You can fit both of these guys if you want. I just happen to prefer McCaffrey.
What about the DST you like the most, Julian?
Yeah, I think defense on this slate is really interesting, actually, because there's a lot that I like in that 2,500 to 2,900 range, or 2,800 rather. So they're all kind of tight packed together in the same price range, which means, you know, defense is kind of going to be scattered on this slate. I'm going to talk about the Broncos here because obviously they've been playing really well lately against, you know, nice offenses in Pittsburgh and the Los Angeles Chargers. And now they're going to go on the road and travel to Cincinnati and face this Jeff Driscoll guy who they're now going to be prepared for rather than him coming in off the bench in relief of Andy Dalton and kind of slinging against the Browns down big. I think that was a spot where Driscoll's stats aren't really exactly the player he is. So I think the Broncos are in a really good spot in this game, but teams like the Packers, Chiefs, and the team that Jeff's going to talk about, I think all these defenses are very viable on this slate.
Jeff, DST, who are you looking at?
Yeah, Julian's right. There are a lot of good defenses. I look at the upside of the Los Angeles Rams. I just do not know why you wouldn't roster them at 2,600, especially because they're probably going to be really low owned because everyone seems to want to play the Chiefs or maybe the Broncos or like pay up for the Bears. The Rams are just going overlooked here. This is a team who I believe 5 times they put up 13 or more DK points. This has tremendous upside. It's a unit that has tremendous upside. They have one of the top 3 defensive players in Aaron Donald. They made Patrick Mahomes turn the ball over 5 times on that Monday night game. And they're getting Aqib Talib back now. And oh, by the way, I mentioned the Lions suck. Matt Stafford has been brutal at home this year. He's got 3 touchdowns and 4 interceptions over his last 4 games. This is a team that's headed in the wrong direction. And also, this leads into my Todd Gurley play. The better the Rams defense is, the more touches Todd Gurley is going to get. You look at the first 3 weeks of the season, the Gurley Rams defense play correlated very, very well. I think it's another spot where those 2 plays are going to correlate well. I love stacking the Rams D with Todd Gurley this week.
And
Okay.
I mean, one more thing on Jeff's play, because I do love this Rams defense. They allowed in that last game to Kansas City, they allowed 51 points on the board and they scored 21 DraftKings points on defense. So I don't know if, I mean, obviously it's it's the highest scoring game of all time. So there's not anything to compare it to, but just being able to allow that many points and yet score that many DraftKings points is kind of ridiculous.
It really is. All right, boys, great job. We'll take a quick break here, then we'll get to Greg and Reed about their top stacks and your questions. There's a bajillion of them. We'll get to them.
Tara Lenizak in with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Vikings invade New England this week, and there are a couple injury situations worth keeping an eye on for Minnesota. Wide receiver Stephon Diggs and cornerback Xavier Rhodes were both limited in practice on Friday and are questionable for today's 4:25 kickoff. Diggs, who is dealing with a knee injury, is expected to play, but Rhodes' status is a little more up in the air. ESPN's Adam Schefter reporting that the Pro Bowler will test out his injured hamstring during pregame warmups and will be a game-time decision. If Rhodes can't go, stopping the Patriots offense becomes that much more challenging. Tom Brady is expected to have his full complement of weapons this week with Rob Gronkowski, Julian Edelman, and Josh Gordon all off the injury report. Rhodes would be the guy expected to shadow Gordon this afternoon, and if he can't go, undrafted rookie Holton Hill could be the guy that gets the call. There is hope for Rhodes, however, as he has a history of playing through injuries. Head coach Mike Zimmer noted that Rhodes often looks like he's hurt, but then is able to go, adding that's just Xavier. I have a few nicknames for him.
All right, it's Sunday morning, and I really wish I had a big old stack of pancakes, but you can't always get what you want, but sometimes you get what you need.
Yeah, so you'll have to settle for our experts' delicious Top Sunday stacks. What's up, Greg Ehrenberg and Reed Fowler? You guys want to talk some stacks with us?
Yeah?
Sure, let's do it.
Yeah, all right.
I noticed Reed changed, or he added like another layer.
I'm freezing.
He's cold. Okay,
That's
let's get
that's what it is.
those top stacks of the day. So, Greg, ice cold. Start us off here. Let's get your top stack.
Yeah, so for me, it's Jared Goff and Brandon Cooks. Cooper Kupp is out for the Rams now, and that's just led to a much bigger role for Cooks. Cooks was kind of a boomer bust play earlier in the year, and that's kind of what he's been for most of his career. But now that Kupp is out, just really consistent production for Cooks. 3 straight 100-yard games. He's getting a ton of volume now, basically every game, and a really good matchup for him. The Lions are 31st in DVOA against the pass. So Goff to Cooks, I think that makes a ton of sense this week.
Reed, your top stack, please.
Yeah, we mentioned a little bit earlier, I love this game in Minnesota, New England. So my top stack is going to be Cousins and Adam Thielen. Look, it's going to cost you 27% of your salary, but like New England is averaging 33 points per game. They're also giving up 27 over that same time frame over the past 3 weeks. We know New England's defense against wide receiver ones, not that good this year. Per DVOA, to believe they're 24th against those ones. Look, New England gives up the 7th most passing touchdowns, DK points to quarterbacks. When you look at Thielen, he's averaging over 100 yards on the road. Yes, his targets have dipped down, but they've dipped down from like 11 to 13 to like 6 or 7 or 9 over the last 3. So this guy is still getting a ton of targets. He's going to probably stay away from Stephon Gilmore. He's going to cost you a lot, Thielen is. But in terms of saving, if we want to go value at quarterback, I think Kirk Cousins is a fantastic play. So that'd be my top stack.
All right, Reed, let's get sneaky for the people at home. How about a contrarian stack you're looking at?
Yeah, I'm saying in that same game, I think on the other side, Tom Brady and Josh Gordon, I think at the beginning, if Rhodes was in, if he didn't get injured and he wasn't a game-time decision, this would be a one that you would want to probably fade. But now you're looking at 11-7 for those two guys. It's 23% of your salary. Team passing percentage when Rhodes is out, opponents, it goes up to 61% from 55%. Obviously, they're not targeting guys or Rhodes that much, but you look at explosive play percentage, that increases as well when Xavier Rhodes is out. And Holton Hill, yes, he's okay. And yes, when he came in spot starts for Xavier Rhodes, he's done decently. But now you get Josh Gordon and Tom Brady. Tom Brady especially, cheap as he's been in quite some time. And both of these guys being single-owned, especially if Rhodes is out, even if he's in and he's a game-time decision, that hamstring where you went down and you couldn't even walk off the field, contemplating surgery, I'm going to take this because it's going to be way low owned, and you could get some really smash spots when you look at Josh Gordon, those big play opportunities.
Who are you looking at for a contrarian stack, Greg?
Yeah, so as a contrarian stack, I really like Russell Wilson and Doug Baldwin. A little bit of narrative here. Doug Baldwin has dealt with injuries basically all year. He had a groin injury. He had the knee issue in the offseason. And he said this week, this is the best that he's felt the entire season, basically since before the knee injury. So to me, I feel like Baldwin's finally healthy. Really good matchup for him against the 49ers. Another thing also, the volume for Baldwin has been trending up. 17 targets over the last 2 weeks. He's going to be very, very low owned. If anybody plays a Seahawks wide receiver, they're probably going to go towards Lockett this week just because he's been the big play guy. But historically, Doug Baldwin's been one of the best wide receivers in football. And I think now that it looks like he's finally healthy, I think we could see him get back to that to close the season.
All right, they aren't pancakes, right? They're not. But those stacks are still great. We do love those stacks.
Agreed upon.
Yeah. So thanks for the help, gentlemen, and we'll be right back.
Pat Mayo here with Sunday's blazing game day picks presented by Buffalo Wild Wings. Week 13 not only gets rid of the bye weeks, leaving a healthy 13 games on the Sunday main slate, but we got a slew of projected high-scoring matchups. 3 games projected for more than 54 points, with another 3 over 47 points. That's what we want to see. So let's start at running back, go to the highest scoring game, and run it back for the second straight week with Christian McCaffrey, since it worked out so well last time around. Can you expect another 50 DraftKings points? You should never expect 50 DK points, but it's certainly on the table for C. McC again. After scoring no TDs the first 3 weeks, McCaffrey could only muster a lone score the following 3 weeks. His past 5 games, 9 touchdowns. Does that mean he's better now than he was before? Nah. It's just a reason to consistently chase volume, and good things will happen. And against a Bucs squad, which should keep up on the scoreboard, chase down that volume again. It's not the safest play of the week at receiver, but Kenny Galladay's in a terrific spot at home against the Rams. With Marvin Jones being placed on injured reserve, it solidifies Galladay's target floor each week. Since Jones got banged up the first time around against the Bears, Kenny G's averaging 13 targets a game and hadn't had fewer than 14 DK points in any of them. I say that he's not the safest only because of one guy, Matt Stafford. But the Rams secondary has been so pitiful, it shouldn't be that big of an issue. Finally, at quarterback, let's double down twofold. We'll go back to that Panthers-Bucs game, and we'll run out Jameis Winston again in Week 13. Jameis posted almost 26 points a week ago, which is amazing. Strangely, it was also the fewest amount of DK points he's put up in his 3 full starts. As underdogs in a game that's expected to have the most points on the slate, just pray he doesn't get benched again. Then he'll challenge 30 points. Those were your blazing game day picks presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Welcome back, guys. Should we maybe talk about some of the inactives that we have here right now?
Okay,
Emerson?
works for me.
Yeah.
You got it? Because
All right.
I do not have it.
Joe Flacco is out. Gus Edwards in. Marlon Mack in. Randall Cobb also in. Kiki Kuti is out. Devin Funchess in. J.J. Watt in. Aqib Talib in. Jalen Ramsey in. Danny Amendola out. Devontae Parker is in.
Love it.
Sounds good. So now for the moment we've all been waiting for. Put up your bukes. Steve Buchanan is here, and we really just can't wait. He's going to fight people on his bukes.
Yeah, and it's his little brother Julian who has joined the segment. So let's see. Steven, your first buke, please.
Yeah, we're going to go with Philip Lindsay here for 19 DK fantasy points. I mean, Lindsay isn't a player that's going to blow you away in terms of sneakiest, but, I mean, he's really been getting it done lately. And on a week where there's so much value, and there's talk about so much value, especially at the running back position, I feel like Lindsay's kind of getting lost in the shuffle here. You talk about Spencer Ware being a good play, Aaron Jones being a good play here, but let's not forget that Lindsay's going up against the Bengals defense that's allowed the most fantasy points in the league to opposing running backs. They're allowing an average of 33.1 DK fantasy points, 117 rushing yards a game with 11 rushing touchdowns. Lindsay accounts for 53% of the red zone rushes for the Broncos. This should be a huge game for him. I don't see how the Bengals are going to create a lot of offense here. So especially in the second half, I can't imagine Lindsay's not getting the carries here. So I absolutely love him in this spot. Save a little bit of salary with Lindsay.
At least 20 DK fantasy points in 3 of his last 4 games. I mean, Julian, good luck pushing back against this one.
Yeah, so here's how this segment works.
Okay.
Steve makes his picks. He makes generally chalky picks. I'm going to tell him all his picks this week are chalk. Then next week, he's going to make an effort to make them more contrarian. And then week by week for about 3 or 4 weeks, they'll become more and more chalky until we get to this week when I shred them apart and say that they're all obvious plays. And then next week, they'll go back to more contrarian plays. So yeah, how am I going to talk down Philip Lindsay on this slate? He's $5,400. He's going up against a defense in Cincinnati that ranks 28th in terms of DraftKings points allowed to the running back position. Lindsay's taken, the featured role in this offense. Nobody else is really getting many touches. 14 carries for 110 yards and a touchdown last week. 11 carries for 79 the week before. 18 for 95 back in week 8 against Kansas City. Broncos favored here on the road. Everybody loves them over the Bengals, who are starting Jeff Driscoll. It's a perfect spot for Philip Lindsay. I have no way that I can disagree.
All right, Steven, how about Lamar Miller? Please make your case for this young man.
He just made a 2-minute rant about how he agrees. That's all he said there, is that he can't disagree.
Honestly, I have no idea why we have him on the program.
Like, what a diva. That was so dramatic. But anyways, let's talk about Lamar Miller for 4,600. I mean, starting in week 6, we haven't seen Deshaun Watson throw more than 25 times in a game. In that span, we're seeing Miller carry the ball just under 17 times in a game. I mean, he's an extremely boomer bust candidate on a weekly basis, but he gets such a good matchup this week against the Browns. They're a defense that's just out of the top 5 worst defenses against the run this season. They allowed over 100 rushing yards 6 times with multiple rushing touchdowns in 5 of those games. The only concern here is that if Houston gets behind, doesn't get enough work in the passing game, but I think this is going to be a pretty close game, so I think Miller's going to be involved primarily throughout this game here. But again, just another value play at running back that I feel like he's not getting so much hype because of the emergence of Spencer Ware and such like that. So I like Miller a lot in this spot and almost the same salary range.
Go ahead, Julian. It's time for you to rant.
So Steve likes a running back that is $4,600 that has rushed for 86 or more yards in 4 of his last 5 games, 3 of them for over 100 yards, 162 of them last week, touchdowns in 3 of those 5 games. As a, 5.5 point favorite, I think Houston is against Cleveland. The play makes a ton of sense. How am I going to argue against it? What I will say, I guess, is I like Philip Lindsay more. I like Spencer Ware more. What other guys do I like more?
Is this hidden jewels or put up your
There are plays
views?
that I like more, but Lamar Miller's fine.
Is this hidden jewels?
I don't know what this is.
They're not hidden. They're not hidden anything. It's Google chalk plays on DraftKings this week.
Oh, shoot.
You okay, man? You all right?
He's having a bad day.
Yeah, he really is, though. I'm really happy he's not in the office.
I'm having a great
Just trying to
day.
rile him up, yeah.
Steve, I remember you singing the praises of this tight end earlier in the week, so go ahead and do it again.
Yeah, it's Matt LaClasse at 2,500 for 12 DK fantasy points. Just another Bronco for you to play this week. I mean, he's the #1 tight end in Denver now. He enters this game with an abysmal target share under the 2 per game. But with that being said, he scored last week and now gets a Bengals defense that's allowed the 2nd most fantasy points in the league to opposing tight ends. he helps make so much fit this week with how cheap he is. Taking him with one of the value running back plays that either I mentioned or Spencer Ware. Then you take a cheap defense like the Rams, like Jeff was talking about earlier. You have like a lion's share of salary left to fill it out with guys like Gurley or Saquon Barkley and things like that. Just the salary opening alone is enough to make him, having me put him in this lineup for this week, and he should be getting a good amount of targets in this game as well. So here comes Julian. He can't fight it. He's going to be a coward and just agree with him. Be like, oh, it's a chalk play. Go ahead, whatever. It's a good play. Why would you fade it? Well, go ahead. Let's hear one of your dumb rants.
I'm not disagreeing with your plays. I'm telling you that they're chalk plays, so I agree with them. Yeah, I mean, so here's a DraftKings 101. You look for somebody that gets injured and then play their backup that's starting at minimum salary in a terrific matchup. So, yeah, I think this is a fine play. He caught 3 of 4 targets last week. He caught a touchdown. So if you need to go down to minimum at tight end, I think that's fine. This will be a good play there. What I will say is we're talking about how much value there is on this slate. I don't think I even need a minimum price tight end to fit everything I want. So in that sense, if I'm going to be eating chalk at tight end, I'm going to be taking Eric Ebron, who has been really good for the Colts lately and will have an expanded role with Jack Doyle out. He thrived in this matchup against Jacksonville a few weeks ago. So I am going to be taking the chalk at tight end. I'm just going to be paying a little bit more for it, which is why I won't be on this guy. But if you need the 2,500 minimum, go ahead.
All right, I need to make a proposal real quick.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Next week, I don't want to do put up your bukes. I don't want to do it next week. I want to do hidden jewels. I want to hear Mr. Smart Guy, all his hidden plays, the non-chalk plays. Next week, hidden jewels. I don't want to do put up your bukes. Let's see what this tough guy has next week.
Okay, I will speak with our producers after the show. I do not see that being an issue, Steven. So gear up, and Julian.
It's not an issue. It's going to be a crap segment. Good luck.
Go ahead and prepare yourself. Let's hit some questions real quick. Steve, I'll go ahead and start with you. You're in a good mood. Watson and Hopkins or Baker and Landry? So Steve Hilton is looking for a couple stacks here.
I think with Kuti out now, I think it's got to be Watson and Hopkins. I think Hopkins flourishes so much more when Kuti's out of the lineup, so I'm going to go with that one.
Hey, Julian, pick one. Lamar Miller, Kenyon Drake, or Yeldon?
Yeldon is tempting with that Jacksonville situation, but give me Lamar Miller.
Yeah, put up your book.
Flex.
I said I liked him.
Flex play here, Steve. Godwin, James White, or Golden Tate?
Godwin, not even close.
Sounds good to me.
Hey, Julian, half PPR for quarterbacks, Winston or Watson?
I actually like Winston here. Cam, I know Jeff hates him, and Cam Newton is a play on the other side of that game that I would prefer. But I think Jameis is one of the best quarterback plays on this slate, so you can use him in season long as well, obviously.
Luck or Watson, Jules?
Luck and Watson
there
is
he
a little
is.
bit tighter for me, but I will go Andrew Luck there.
Just terrible as usual, Julian.
Oh, man.
Jameis Winston is going to have a good game today.
He's not even involved in this segment.
We have this on tape.
Well, now he's in it.
Steve, at tight end, Olsen, Rudolph, or Burton?
I'll side with Burton on this one. I don't like Olsen right now because of how many targets McCaffrey's getting. That's not a good situation. I'm going to go with Burton.
Jules, I would like to ask you, there's a new report coming out that Diggs is back to being listed as questionable after his knee has swelled overnight. I remember we talked to you about this in the first segment of the show. You kind of liked Diggs because he wasn't going to be as chalky, right, as Thielen. So now do you kind of steer clear of this guy? He's obviously having issues.
Yeah, I think this definitely changes the situation. I'm just scrolling through the receivers right now to see if there's anybody priced similarly that's in the later 4 o'clock games. So you do have Julian Edelman at 7,100 that you could pivot to there if you wanted to wait it out on the later games. But I think that's too risky given how much salary you'd be tying up in Diggs at this point. So I would not be playing him. And potentially Adam Thielen could become a better play if Diggs winds up sitting out.
Steve, in PPR, Aaron Jones or Nick Chubb?
I mean, you have to go with Aaron Jones here. You have to go with Aaron Jones.
All right, guys. Take some deep breaths after that particular segment. We're going to be back in a couple minutes for another segment that has its own opening animation.
Wow.
Thorn in my side coming up.
Hey, welcome to $1 Million Picks presented by Roman. ED meds prescribed online, delivered to your door at GetRoman.com. I'm Adam Kaufman, and we're here to make you money. Basic is that. Our $1 Million panel is here as well, Adam Levitan and Reed Fowler. Reed, who was the most upside on Sunday's main slate?
Yeah, the first guy I'm looking at is Aaron Jones at 6,700, the Packers running back, going against Arizona. Look, we've all seen Arizona's foes against opposing running backs. Now they lose Josh Bynes, their inside linebacker, 2 IR, should have went up a lot. First in attempts, first in yards, and first in touchdowns to opposing running backs. I think Aaron Jones should see the bulk of those carries in that game. Second guy, maybe not so much upside, but I think he's going to be a cheaper priced guy in this on the slate. It's Kirk Cousins going against New England. Look at all the quarterbacks on this slate. There's a ton of value. This is going to be a fast-paced game. Both teams are top 10 in pace of play. New England gives up the 7th most DK fantasy points, so Kirk Cousins would be my other play here.
Yeah, I really like Aaron Jones a lot, completely solidifying himself as the Packers lead back, goal line back, 3-down back. Really impressive from Aaron Jones lately. I'm going to go with 2 guys from the same game, and the first one is someone that I think a lot of people are going to be on, but that doesn't mean that it's bad, and that's Christian McCaffrey. We have seen what running backs have done to Tampa Bay all year. We have seen the floor that Christian McCaffrey provides with his pass catching role, and then last week, of course, we see the upside that can happen if they get into a close back and forth game. So I don't mind at all going back to Christian McCaffrey, even at elevated ownership this week. In that same game, to balance out the ownership, though, I think Chris Godwin is a really interesting play. Chris Godwin, one of the most talented wide receivers who isn't getting to play in this league. So in a really good matchup against James Bradbury and those guys, I think Chris Godwin has some serious upside.
So Jones, Cousins, McCaffrey, and Godwin, and of course, Fowler, Levitan, Kaufman. Thanks to our $1 Million panel. Enjoy the games, and we will see you next week on $1 Million Picks presented by Roman. ED Meds prescribed online, delivered to your door at GetRoman.com.
Okay, Gary and Thorn, guess what? Every rose has its thorn, just like every night has its dawn. Just like every cowboy sings his sad, sad song. So he's here for his 3 fades of the day. If you couldn't tell by that fancy graphic that Billy has cooked up in the back, this is Thorn in my side. These are guys you might consider popular out there, but Gary wants absolutely nothing to do with. Do you want me to keep reading?
Yeah, it says
that is
Emerson,
true.
buddy.
Okay, wow, I just didn't know if you wanted to
There
be a
you
part of
go.
this segment. DK Live, Steve Buchanan, and Jeff Ulrich, if you couldn't tell, they're also here. They're going to weigh in on Garian's choices.
So, Garian, let's get that first Thorn, please.
Yeah, well, I found out Jeff was going to be on this segment, so he burned me 2 weeks ago real good with David Johnson. So let's talk about David Johnson again. $7,400. I'll admit, I was way wrong in that matchup against the Chiefs, but that game really still stands out as this weird outlier of David Johnson's season, specifically even if you just shorten it to the Byron Leftwich era. It's the only game he's seen more than 4 targets in the passing game, and it just so happened to take place against a Chiefs defense that has bled targets to running backs all season long. He's as involved as you can be as a running back on a team. He actually leads the NFL in highest percentage of team touches at over 50%, but he's like the king of crap mountain. I don't know what that means when you're on the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, this is a team that has barely managed over 200 yards of total offense on the road so far this season. They're 13-point underdogs. That's not great by any stretch of the imagination. They run the fewest plays on a weekly basis of any NFL team, just over 55 offensive snaps per game. And they just had to put their 4th starting offensive lineman on the IR this week, not to mention DJ Humphries is not going to be active for this game. I just can't see this being an efficient 20-touch game for David Johnson. The script's working against him. And it's Aaron Jones' birthday, so why wouldn't you just pay $700 less and go play Aaron Jones?
That sounds
Jeff,
great.
David Johnson. How do we feel about
Oh,
that
wow, I
one?
didn't know it was Aaron Jones' birthday.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Wow.
that changes everything.
That was more for Steve than anyone else. I knew he would take that seriously.
I gotta adjust my lineups here.
There you go.
Look, I mean, everything Gary had said is right. David Johnson's caught 3 passes in the last 2 games. Like, Steve Wilkes' team, it's garbage. But I'm going to say this. There's a path here for David Johnson today. The weather's supposed to be bad. Josh Rosen isn't going to throw the ball downfield. Who else is he going to throw to? David Johnson. I mean, if you believe that Aaron Rodgers is going to throw for a couple touchdowns here, and if Aaron Jones doesn't find the end zone and the touchdowns go to Devontae Adams, playing David Johnson on the other side of an Aaron Rodgers stack isn't the worst idea in the world. I do think David Johnson is going to see more targets in this game than he has in the past few games. That will increase his PPR totals a lot. And if he does find the end zone, there's a path to like a 20-plus game here. I'm not saying I'm on him this week because I'm really not. I think his price is still too high. If he was in the 6s, be a different story. But I would not be shocked if he put up 20-plus points today at all.
David Johnson and a weather concern, Steve.
Can
I'm
I go?
sorry.
I mean,
Go ahead, dude.
I'm done. I don't.
I mean, what I usually like Jeff. I mean, when he doesn't ditch the show to go Uber or something, like Jeff's a good guy. Like he has some good takes. What bothers me here is that Johnson just doesn't get any targets. I mean, it's not very often that the Cardinals are ahead. So you think he'd be averaging more than 4.4 targets a game. I mean, sure, he's getting 16 carries a game. That's good and all and everything, but like, where are those going to come today? If I'm paying up that much for a running back, I want to get some receiving upside here. Pay up $500 more, you're getting Saquon Barkley, who's just not getting talked about enough this week and is so cheap for the matchup. Like, yes, the Bears are a good running defense, but they cannot defend running backs out of the backfield. It just doesn't happen here. So I'm nowhere near David Johnson.
I'll say one more thing in David Johnson's defense this week. Packers aren't good. Like they're just not a good team. They're really not good against the run. So like I said, not really on my list of plays today, but I think there's very good possibility he hits 20 DK points.
Okay.
As I was saying.
All right.
No thanks.
All right, let's get that second Thorn.
Yeah, let's talk about Carlos Hyde. I mean, really, the name of this segment, even though I have a cool graphic, so I don't want to change it. I know everyone worked hard on the graphic. It looks great. But this particular week, this segment just be called Running Backs I'm Not Playing with Spencer Ware, because I have 100% Spencer Ware exposure. And it's that sort of sense that I don't really want to play Carlos Hyde. I understand that he has to do so exceedingly little to actually bring back 3x or 4x value on this slate. And if he scores a touchdown, it's set in stone that he's going to be a viable play. But I just think he's more of a cash game option than a GPP option for me. Until I actually see a non-Leonard Fournette Jacksonville Jaguars running back have a Leonard Fournette-sized role in this running game, and Hyde needs that because he has yet to be involved at all in the passing game as a member of the Jaguars. He had 2 targets in that first game in London, hasn't seen a single target in the last 3 games as a member of Jacksonville. I would just much rather play TJ Yeldon. I know it's over $1,000 more expensive. I know he's probably not going to get the goal line work, but Yeldon's at least the only non-Fournette running back we've seen get more than 15 carries in a game. And I know that didn't come with Hyde as a member of this roster, but he's the one who's going to be involved in the passing game. He has a bit of history with Cody Kessler, who's got a touchdown pass from Kessler earlier this season. And at one point, Yeldon was top 5 in the NFL in running back passing routes run. That was about week 8 before this Hyde thing happened, before Fournette came back. In a script that I see getting a little bit crazy towards the Colts end of the spectrum, I think the Jaguars are playing from behind here. I just much rather play Yeldon.
How do you feel about fading Carlos Hyde here, Steven?
Garion literally took every single note I had and just said it in that whole thing. So I agree. Jeff?
Oh, Jeff?
Nothing to add.
No, let's keep it moving. I like this.
I think it comes down to this. I mean, there's so much value on the slate. I like Ty Montgomery more than Carlos Hyde. That's basically
I agree with that. I really agree with that.
People are really overlooking Ty Montgomery in that matchup. Gus Edwards banged up. Alex Collins out again. Ty Montgomery really came on late in last week's game. I like him a lot more than Carlos Hyde. I do think it's not a bad matchup for Carlos Hyde, so I wouldn't overlook him completely. If you want to get some exposure to him in GPPs, that's fine, because he will get the goal line carries. I'm almost certain of that. And TJ Yeldon kind of sucks, in my opinion. So I like Ty Montgomery more as a value play personally. I think there's just a better path there with his pass catching. But yeah, Carlos Hyde, I tend to agree with Gary and more on this one.
All right, Gary, and that third and final Thorn, please.
Let's talk about Dalvin Cook. I was really worried with what happened with Dalvin Cook's snap share last week. Went from 88% to 58% against the Packers. It seemed like he was at least coming into his own. He was back to 100% health. He was taking back the reins of this backfield. I just don't think Lat Murray's going away. Do I think he's the number 1 running back option in this offense? No, but I think he's going to carve out a nice little role for himself. And we've yet to see Dalvin Cook get more than 14 touches since coming back from injury. And maybe that's about Dalvin Cook's health, or maybe it's about the fact that the Vikings, to their credit, just understand they cannot run the football. Their offensive line is the pits. They have the worst adjusted line yards per carry of any NFL team so far this season. I think they get that. I think there's a reason they're still throwing the ball 63% of the time since Cook has been activated from the injury list. And I also think the Patriots are a team that tend to induce passing, the 5th highest opponent pass rate in the NFL so far this year. I think this is a game where Kirk Cousins steps back and throws 40 times. And I think while Dalvin Cook might get a couple more targets than he would have if Stephon Diggs was 100% healthy, I'm just not looking to invest in really both sides of this running back tree aside from James White in this game.
Jeff? How do you feel about this, Thorn?
Is Dalvin Cook really 6,200 this week? That's ridiculous.
Isn't it crazy?
Right?
Can confirm.
I don't know because I never roster Dalvin Cook because he never does anything. He's always injured. Patriots have allowed one 100-yard rusher all season. It was Kerryon Johnson, the game they got blown out against Detroit. I want no part of this. Latavius Murray was coming on to seal the game out last week. The coaches obviously trust him. No, I never rostered Dalvin Cook. I'm not going to start this week. So 100% agreement there.
Steve, Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, he's just so expensive. Like, I feel like this had to been a typo where they were putting in prices or something. He's like $1,500 too expensive. The only thing I will say about Cook is that he catches everything that comes his way. He's got 19 of his 22 pass attempts on the year, 10 for his last 10. But 6,200, that's just absolutely insane. Like, I feel like he should be somewhat, pretty involved in this game because I think this game will end up being pretty close and his PPR upside is there. But 6,200.
Yeah. If he does somehow hit value, it's because he caught like a 50-yard screen pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but talk to me when he's like 4,500. This is way too expensive.
Should be next week after he scores 0 points this week, Steve.
Wow, that's wow. Okay.
All right, guys, take a break. You've all earned it. We have not earned it, but we are going to reward our 8 minutes of work with one anyway. So you can all take a break to listen to Mike Francesa talk about today's slate.
Big day games, obviously, here. It's a Sunday. It's what we do. Kaufman, Francesa. So, Mike, let's jump right in here. Best game of the day, you could actually argue, is the night game. 8-3 Steelers against the 7-3-1 Steelers. No Melvin Gordon for L.A. Both teams chasing playoff buys. Who do you like here?
Steelers for only one reason. They're home. They're a different team when they're home. I don't trust San Diego. Perfect example. I picked them 2 weeks ago against Denver. They're winning 19-7. They're driving with the ball. They wind up losing that game.
A guy who's so much better than how he's played so far is Aaron Rodgers. The Packers are struggling, but they're going to host the Cardinals today. Everyone has been critical of Mike McCarthy, certainly critical of Rodgers. He thinks, as he put it, they need to leave it all out there. Randall Cobb has heard the criticism of Rodgers, the sloppy play, missing open guys, all of it, but says the QB is getting ready to, as he said, light everybody up. What do you think?
They probably do, but it doesn't matter. They're 0-6 on the road. They're not a good team. Everyone's got to get past the point that they're a good team. They're not a good team. They have a great quarterback who's playing on one leg. He hasn't been healthy all year. I think this is the end of the road for McCarthy there. I think Rodgers, I give him a lot of credit for not sitting down sometime during this season. He's not healthy. He's playing on one leg. You're not seeing the best of him.
As much as the Packers have been disappointing, the Browns have been surprising, a pleasant surprise. They're in Houston against a team that's won 8 in a row, so in all likelihood, another loss. But Cleveland has swagger. You have to admire it. What do you think of Baker Mayfield, though, taking every opportunity over the last week to call out his old coach, Hugh Jackson?
I think it's dumb. I think it's dumb for a young guy to get involved in that stuff because it'll come back and haunt you. It just will. It's bad karma. It's not just bad karma. It's just bad business. When you're young in the league, just keep your mouth shut and let your play do the talking.
One guy who's never been involved in any of that stuff in his career, of course, Eli Manning and his Giants home against Chase Daniels' Bears this week anyhow. 3-8, and Odell Beckham Jr., Mike, who's supposed to be a leader. We've talked about him in the past quite a bit, but he's talking about wanting to reach 2,000 yards in a season, 20 TDs in a year. He has discussed winning too. It's not all stats, but does he just not get it?
Not even close to getting it. Doesn't get it, doesn't have an idea, doesn't understand what the sport is about, doesn't get it at all. Here's the bottom line. They are 29-47 since he got here. Case closed.
Maybe the best wideout in the entire NFL right now is you can make a strong case that it's Adam Thielen and his Vikings. They're visiting the Patriots.
I think the best wideout in the league is Hill because he's unstoppable.
Yeah, well, electric player for sure.
Well, because you just can't cover him because if you don't get him off the line of scrimmage, you can't cover him.
He's too fast as hell.
Yeah, fastest thing I've seen, fastest thing I've ever seen in a football uniform. Absolutely. Now, Hayes was faster in a straight line, but he was an all-time world-class sprinter. But he couldn't cut like this guy. He couldn't dart in and out. This guy's scary. He really is. He's an amazing young player. I think he's a bit of a jerk sometimes in some of the stuff he does, but he's really fast.
Let's talk about the Patriots and Vikings, though. A lot of offensive potential in this game. Pats are healthy. The Vikes have the best 1-2 receiving combo in the sport.
Yeah.
Mentioned Thielen.
And
They get
Thielen's
Stephon
really
Diggs
good.
right
And he's
there, too.
he's a guy who didn't cost a lot of money either. Thielen's really good. He didn't cost a lot of money. He's very productive. You know, he came out of nowhere. So he's the kind of guy you love. Hard to beat the Pats. I think the Vikings have a very good chance, though, if they get A-gap pressure, which I think they can. I think they can make this a tough game both ways. I think they do have a good matchup here. This is going to be a tough game for the Patriots. I think I could see this being a very tough matchup. I think the Vikes match up well with the Patriots. I really do.
We'll wrap with this one. There are a lot of teams that are playing well right now with lengthy winning streaks. There's the Cowboys, who won, of course, back to begin the week. The Texans, the Colts, the Bears, all playing well. Who's the hottest team in that group at the moment, though?
Love the Colts. I love the Colts. I love the quarterback. 8 straight games. First of all, as everyone knows, I'm an unabashed luck guy. I have been since he was in college. I predicted greatness out of Stanford. I started talking about him on my show extensively when he was at Stanford. I thought he was going to be an all-time great. I was sad when he got hurt. Now he's come back, and he has been, in my mind, as good as anybody in the league this year. He should be an MVP candidate right with Mahomes. So to me, they're the most fun and the hottest team right now.
Mike, enjoy all the action. One more chat tomorrow.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the Sweat. 15 minutes until lineups lock, so let's get right to it. Here is a DK Live trio. Greg Ehrenberg, Reed Fowler, and Jeff Ulrich. And Jessie, tell us what we're talking about.
It's off-the-wall picks, so these are reach picks for you guys for this week. So, Greg, who are you going way off the wall for?
Yeah, so off the wall, I'm going Jarvis Landry. I think all of us fell into the Jarvis Landry trap at some point this year when he was actually a chalkier play and seemed like a good option. And he just hasn't played well this year. But one thing that's remained constant for Landry this entire season, he gets volume. He has 111 targets this year. That's 7th in all of football. He just generally isn't very efficient and doesn't do a ton with them. But if you look at the Browns' overall offense right now, trending up with Hugh Jackson gone, Baker Mayfield's played better without him. So I just think without any ownership and a low price for that kind of volume, I think that Jarvis Landry has upside.
Reed, you're going off the wall, but who's it for?
Yeah, it's going to be Marcel Aitman, the Oakland Raiders receiver, going against the Chiefs at $3,600. Like, leave it to the Raiders to feature a 7th-round rookie as their number 1 receiver. Yeah, they've had some injuries. They've obviously let go of Amari Cooper and some of their key players. Aitman has run 54 routes over the last 2 games. He targeted about a quarter of those routes run. Look, he's a big-bodied receiver from Oklahoma State. He's getting 5 to 7 targets. Like, if you can get around that number at 7 targets in this range, and Steve mentioned it earlier, he's mentioned it on his Twitter account too, right? Like, there's so much value in this slate that getting these guys at that low min price, and if you don't want to go down at the running back with Carlos Hyde at 3,300, like the guys mentioned in the previous segment, I think a receiver like Aitman at 3,600 in a game that's implied game total is 55, and the Raiders in their implied team total is around 20. They're gonna have to score, and I don't think that's gonna be a Doug Martin, Jalen Richard game. I think they're gonna have to pass. So 8-minute at 3,600 would be my guys. Gonna be 1% owned.
Jeff, go off the wall for us.
Quincy Enunwa. I mean, just look at the Titans secondary. 9 touchdowns to the wide receiver position over the last 5 games. They've allowed touchdowns to 7 different wide receivers over that span. Quincy Enunwa, yes, I know it's the Jets, but Quincy Enunwa is the number 1 receiver. He's great after the catch. And unlike some of these other value plays, he brings like that real upside, that monster game upside, in my opinion, because he can break a 50-yard touchdown. So at 4,100, I'm completely willing to trust him in the spot. Looks like he's healthy. Caught 4 of 4 passes last week. Had one big play. So I really like him in the spot at 4,100. I think this is the week that you can semi-trust him at a really cheap price.
All right, that'll do for now, guys, because Slate-proof time is next. Your must-plays of the day when the Sweat on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and the DK Live app returns.
I'm going to go with Aaron Jones for my conviction play.
Oh, look at Adam. He's going to the guy who's definitely not in his lineup, but might be. That's a nice play by Adam.
Might be. I think he's strong. He might be in my lineup. You never know. I think the way that, I mean, the Packers have just atrocious coaching, but it wouldn't take a genius to see the best way to attack the Cardinals is with Aaron Jones. Ton of volume for him. We know how banged up their wideouts are. We know how banged up Jimmy Graham is. We know that Patrick Peterson will be on Devontae Adams. It just makes sense to feed the ball to Aaron Jones 18, 20, 25 times. And he's actually shown a reasonable role in the pass game lately, which he hasn't shown in the past because they were so concerned about his ability to protect. So to me, Aaron Jones at 6,700 is underpriced, and a lot of these other running backs that we've talked about, I would probably say are awesome plays, but maybe more appropriately priced. So I'll go with Aaron Jones.
All right, like that call. I'm going to go with someone who also is not like a just clear jam man. We could say Christian McCaffrey or Todd Gurley or someone like that. I'm going to go with Kenny Golladay going against this Rams defense. I think if you look at the line right now, the Lions are going to be throwing. They're most likely to be down, and the target share is just ridiculous. I hope they're not pounding with LeGarrette Blount. He's been so bad this year. So if that's the case and they're down, you should see Theo Riddick out there, Ellington and Golladay. A lot of targets, a lot of upside. Unlike Courtland Sutton, he has actually come through. So Kenny Golladay is my conviction play. Al, what you got?
I'm just going to go with Christian McCaffrey. I mean, if Adam didn't want to give anything away, he could have just said Eric Ebron, right? We could have said Carlos Hyde. I'm going with Christian McCaffrey.
Nice.
I've said it all season long. This guy has essentially a greater market share of carries and targets than Alvin Kamara did last year, and now he's added goal line usage up against one of the worst defenses in terms of stopping fantasy production, one of the 3 defenses that we attack pretty much on an every single week basis. I know the price has come up. I know he had a slate-breaking game last week. He's also had slate-breaking games like 4 of the last 5 weeks, guys. Just not 50 points, but 30 plus is pretty outstanding for a running back. Yes, he is cheaper than Todd Gurley. No, he is not Todd Gurley, but you're getting Todd Gurley type production each of the last 5 or 6 weeks that we saw from Gurley earlier in the season from McCaffrey right now. That's going to be my conviction play.
Quad box. Hit him with it. Greg, Reed, Jeff, Steven. Welcome back.
So before we get to those Slate-proof picks, let's hit on some over-under game totals. The Vikings travel to New England to take on the Pats. Is this game going over or under 49 points? Steven?
Yeah, I think this one goes under. I mean, I know there's been a lot said about how good the Vikings defense is and stuff like that, but this game's in New England. I think there's a lot of good plays here. The slot receivers on both teams are in just such great spots. Adam Thielen against the Patriots, Julian Edelman against the Vikings. I'd be really surprised if this went under, so I think this easily goes over.
Greg, over or under?
Yeah, so this is an under for me. I think a lot of people just look at Patriots games and assume, oh, it's New England. It has to be a really high-scoring game. Lately, their games have been trending towards being lower scoring. 44 less points in 3 of their last 4 games. They're playing at a slower pace, and they have Rex Burkhead back now. So that's just another guy they could try to establish the run with. I think this is going to be a fairly low-pace game.
Low-pace game, Reed? Agree, disagree? Over, under 49 points?
I disagree. I think this is going to be an over game. Look, I understand that Minnesota's defense is doing really well and they're getting healthier, but both these teams are top 10 in pace of play, so I'm going to say over here.
Jeff, over, under?
I like the under here quite a bit. I think this game actually started out a little bit lower, but it's trended up. But, I mean, Vikings defense is no joke. They've played really well over the last 3 weeks. Xavier Rhodes is going to be in the lineup, which is a big factor here, too. So, New England offense, like Greg alluded to, it's just not really what it has been. So, yeah, there might be a lot of passing, but I think this is a solid under for me.
Jeff,
divided.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Jeff, the Panthers look to end their 3-game losing streak against the Bucs. Will this game be over or under 53.5 points?
I think I'm more inclined to take the over here. Look, we talked last week about San Francisco and Tampa, and you don't like to trust 2 bad teams, but the Panthers are a good team. And I do feel like, again, if they jump out on top, it'll lead to enough Tampa Bay garbage points here. Now, Jameis Winston has really been bad against the Panthers over his career, and that's one reason why I really don't like him this week. But if it's going to be garbage time against prevent defenses, I think the Bucs can do enough here. So I'd be inclined to take the over. It's not one of my favorite plays of the week, but I would take the over here if push came to shove.
Reed, where are you going?
Yeah, I'm going to say over here as well. A lot of injuries on that Tampa Bay defense. Levante Davis should be back. We'll see what he does at that middle linebacker position. Both top 5, though, against the over Carolina Tampa Bay. So in the over.
Greg, you're up.
Yeah, maybe we're all just a bunch of squares because the sharp money is on the under for this game. It's dropped a few points since it's open, but still over for me also at 53.5. These are just not good defenses. Tampa Bay is 31st in defensive DVOA this year. The Panthers are 26th. So I think this could be a really high-scoring game, and I think the teams are going to score early. I think they're going to score often, and I just think they're going to have to go back and forth to keep up.
Steve, I need you to answer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad Greg brought that up about the under. I just don't see where the defense is going to come from at this point. I mean, Carolina's averaging over 28 points a game. I mean, if we spot them 30 there, You don't think the Buccaneers can get at least 24 against this Panthers defense? I don't see how this game goes under. I think it's definitely over.
Guys, the Rams and Lions are projected to go for 54 points. Do you like the over or under here, Steven?
I think the over on this one as well. It's just I think there's a lot to like about this game, and in terms of fantasy points here, just because 40 is a low number. I mean, both these teams do have some guys that can get the over here. I mean, Miami's got a decent run game and stuff. Buffalo's looked better as of late. I mean, if this was a little bit higher, I think it'd be more inclined to take the under, but I think this one goes over.
Reed, over or under?
I mean, I was surprised you didn't mention why we've been talking about this game. Look, I'm going under here. I think this is going to be a run-first game. I really think a guy like Josh Allen, you want to see him run the ball more with his own. Like, he's sort of the poor man's Lamar Jackson, but doing pretty well on the ground himself. So I'm going to say under.
Oh, we're going under. Greg, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really low number, so it's hard to feel confident about saying under 40.5 points. But the Bills kind of have a sneaky good defense, so I like the under also. They're second overall in defensive DVOA. And then from the Bills' offensive point of view, I don't like Josh Allen as a prospect. He hasn't been particularly good this year. He makes the occasional wow type play, but for the most part, he just kind of sucks. So I don't see where the points are coming from unless it's defensive touchdowns.
Jeff, you want to go over or under here?
Yeah, that's the one worry with me too. I would take the under here. But the worry is that Miami just has a couple weird scores because they're pretty good at that actually. Defensive scores and I get to 30 points, but I see a 20-13, 24-13 game. I just don't see this as a good spot for the Bills. It's kind of a letdown after last week on the road in Miami, a place where teams kind of get distracted. So I like the under here for sure.
All right, guys, the Texans have won 8 straight, and the Browns have won 2 straight, coming in hot. Do you see this game going over or under 47.5 points? Reed, where are you going?
I'm going to say under here. Look, Cleveland's, we talked about past DVOA, Cleveland's got a strong one. You look at what they're able to do. And Houston, again, outside of that Tennessee game, their pass defense is something of suspect. They haven't really met a lot of strong teams. I think Cleveland and Baker Mayfield are the strongest team in terms of a quarterback who they're going to face because they've faced terrible ones over the past few weeks. So under here.
Reed, that was a good answer, Reed. Steve. Reed, Steve.
I'm going to go under here as well. This has honestly been the toughest game for me to figure out this week just because I feel like both of these offenses could lead to a shootout, but we could see the opposite as well. There's some good spots for individual players here like Lamar Miller. Hopkins is interesting now with QT out, but I'm going to go under on this one, but I think it's going to be really, really close to that total.
Jeff, what do you want to do? Over or under 47.5?
I like the over. Baker Mayfield passer rating of over 147 coming into this game over his last 2 games. I think he's going to be able to put up points through the air. Deshaun Watson, we know they can put up points. I like the over here for sure in this game.
Greg, over or under 47.5 points?
Hey, Baker, touchdown maker. I like the over also. I think that Gary made a really good point earlier, which is the Texans have been decent against the pass this year, but who have they played against? They've played so many just bad quarterbacks in a row, and then we also have to consider that the Browns' offense, I think, overall is just trending upward now that Hugh Jackson's gone. So I think over 47.5.
Slate-proof time. Greg, who's your lock of the week?
Yeah, Spencer Ware. I just think that he's the easy plug and play, just the best way to get value. We have a cheap running back starting for a really good offense in the Chiefs in a great matchup. Good game script with the Chiefs as 2 touchdown favorites. I think Spencer Ware is easily the best value play on the slate.
Wow, Spencer Ware. Jeff, who's your slate-approved pick?
It's Spencer Ware.
What?
Spencer Ware should be 80% owned on the slate. He's not going to be. He's 4,000. Like Greg said, it's the Chiefs offense. Why wouldn't you take the starting running back for the Chiefs offense at 4,000? It's ridiculous. So, yeah, Spencer Ware.
Steve, how much does it pain you to say Adam Thielen, bud?
Not at all. I mean, the Patriots are so poor against receivers out of the slot. They've allowed 9 touchdowns. They just have no answers for Thielen in this game.
Reed, slate-approved pick time.
Yeah, I'm going with the birthday boy, Aaron Jones. Cardinals give up number 1 in terms of attempts, yards, touchdowns, you name it. So Aaron Jones should be in a good spot here.
Okay, we have 90 seconds left. Let's do some rapid-fire questions. Reed, Calvin Ridley, Alshon Jeffrey, Duke Johnson can only play 2. That's from Drew Patoa.
Jeez, Calvin Ridley, who was the other 2? Duke Johnson and
Alshon Jeffrey. Please listen.
The first 2. No Alshon. Alshon's been bad over the past couple of weeks.
Okay, so Calvin and Duke. There's your answer.
Let's see. Steven, Rodgers or Brady?
I'll take Brady in this spot.
Jeff, I can only play 2. This is from Stefini. T.Y. Hilton, A.J. Green, or Emmanuel Sanders?
Sanders and Hilton.
I missed that because someone was talking in my ear.
Yeah, I
Sanders and Hilton.
Okay, thank
cool.
you.
Great, good to know.
You're welcome, Stephanie.
Good to know.
Emerson, the consummate professional.
Greg,
Yeah, exactly.
Miller, Drake, or Yeldon?
I'm going to go with Miller here.
Let's see. PPR league here. Steve, Tariq Cohen, Spencer Ware, and then looks like Dalvin Cook. Which 2 would you pick?
2?
Yeah, please.
Cohen and Ware.
Okay, well, I think
That's it.
we're,
Yeah,
just
we're
about
out of time.
Thank you guys so much. As always, we love having you on The Sweat. I'm Jessie Coffield. He's Emerson Lotzia. The Sweat will be back
Tomorrow night, you and me,
at
6 o'clock
p.m.
Eastern.
Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, DK Live app. As always, we'll be bringing you the latest fantasy news and updates. But for now, we're out of here.
UCF was robbed.